What's up YouTube, Capital G here, checking out the brand new Summon Skull Synchro monster that just got revealed. This is coming out in the 20th anniversary pack, and this is actually really interesting because if you guys remember when Konami first revealed that we were getting a Summon Skull Ritual monster, I was like, what the heck? Where the hell exactly did this thing come from? But I was pleasantly surprised because the card was really good and I thought that it was incredibly difficult to kill, had a good sized body and everything. Then they kind of gave us a Summon Skull Fusion monster, also out of left field. It wasn't quite as good, really. It just kind of gives your Summon Skull monsters 500 attack, including itself. It's a really big beat stick, but outside of that, it's like, it's really not that impressive. Now we have a Summon Skull like Synchro monster, and I'm wondering just how deep Konami's gonna go with this. Obviously, the 20th anniversary pack is supposed to celebrate 2 decades of the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, and Summon Skull is one of the more iconic cards, especially in the DM anime, which is by far the most popular Yu-Gi-Oh anime. Yu-Gi used it a lot on Duelist Kingdom, and you know, it even has its own fusion that he had with Joey, the Black Skull Dragon and whatnot. If you guys don't know, in Metal Raiders, the set that Summon Skull came out, it was an ultra rare, so it's a pretty iconic card, and I kind of feel like Konami has something really big planned down the line because all of these Summon Skull monsters summon the original Summon Skull from your deck or from the graveyard or from the hand, but there really isn't, there's like no continuity between the actual cards themselves. And I don't really consider Summon Skull an archetype. I mean, Archfiend's an archetype, but Summon Skull itself isn't really an archetype, at least not to me. But let's go ahead and break down this Synchro monster. So this is Beckon Skull Archfiend. It's a dark level 6 Fiend Synchro monster, 2500 attack and 1200 defense. Okay, so its stat line is taken directly from Summon Skull. The Fusion and the Ritual monster all have the same stat line, which belongs to the OG Summon Skull. Now, it's completely generic. It just requires 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner monsters, so there's the potential for this to be splashed in other decks. It says your opponent cannot target Summon Skull you control with card effects. So that's a really good effect, especially if you're playing it in certain matchups like against Altergeist. As an Altergeist player, I can tell you guys, monsters that cannot be targeted by card effects like Darkest Diablos, they are incredibly difficult for our deck to actually kill because you can't use Miluseek on them, you can't target them with Conqueri, you can't use Sequidius, Altergeist playing Permanence, which is another card that you won't be able to use against them. So this can be a really good effect against certain matchups. It says if this card, or excuse me, if this Synchro Summon card leaves the field because of your opponent's card, that generally means battle or by card effect. You can special summon 1 Summon Skull from your hand, deck, or graveyard. This card's name becomes Summon Skull while it is on the field, but it is also treated as an Archfiend card. Okay, so that's really interesting that all of these new Summon Skull retrains all count as Summon Skull on the field. I kind of feel like they should all count as Summon Skull in the graveyard. That way one of them would be able to summon potentially another. Like if you had the Fusion and it died and then later, I guess like the Synchro monster died, you'd be able to like summon the Fusion back. That'd be kind of cool. I think that this card in a vacuum is fairly decent, but I feel like now Konami needs to kind of tie this all together and make Summon Skull like a real fleshed out archetype. They need to probably give us, I don't know, maybe like 10 new Summon Skull cards and make them work with these cards, because you look at this one and yeah, it can give that targeting immunity to other Summon Skull monsters, but it's like, are there any good ones that you'd actually have on the field alongside this thing? The Fusion monster can give 500 attack to other Summon Skull monsters, but again, are there any good ones? And these all require you to really run the original OG Summon Skull to get the most out of this. Being able to summon Skull back from the graveyard is cool, but there just needs to be some way of you know, kind of making this all kind of work together. So it's a decent card in a vacuum, but I'm really hoping that Konami will actually do something and that these aren't just fan service. So you guys let me know what you think of the new Summon Skull Synchro monster. Leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.